60 seconds. That is all it took to split the entire golf world in half. One tee shot, one camera stand, one USGA official crouching in the fescue. And by the time Clark walked off that green, something had happened that no ruling could clean up. Not because it was illegal, because of what it looked like, and because of who was doing it. The clip hit X and did not stop. 500,000 views before Sunday even started. The word people kept using was not controversial. It was not questionable. The word was cheat. Here is what makes this different from every other rules debate golf has seen. Clark did not get disqualified. He did not get penalized. He won. Wire to wire. Second US Open title. And the clip is still spreading right now as you watch this. Personally, I think what happened on that 17th hole exposes something the USGA has refused to address for years, and Clark just forced the entire sport to stare at it. But I want your verdict in the comments before this video is over. Subscribe before you go anywhere, because what actually happened on that hole is something most people sharing that clip have completely wrong. We are going through it frame by frame, accusation by accusation. Before any of that makes sense, you need to understand one thing first. The reason this clip spread the way it did had almost nothing to do with the drop itself. It had everything to do with who was taking it. Clark did not arrive at Shinnecock Hills as a neutral figure. He arrived carrying 18 months of incidents that die-hard fans do not forget. And that history is not background noise in this story. It is the accelerant. Without it, that clip gets a few thousand views and disappears by Monday. With it, the word cheat was trending before the final round even began. Cast your mind back to the 2025 PGA Championship at Quail Hollow. Hole 16. Bad tee shot. Clark releases his driver into the air. Not forward, sideways. The club strikes a T-Mobile sponsor sign and stops just feet from a wind flag attendant standing on the ropes. Feet, not yards. The kind of near miss that makes everyone in range go completely still. That moment did not disappear quietly. It lived on every highlight reel, every worst of compilation, every comment section where fans debated whether what they were watching was frustration or something more serious. Then came Oakmont, the 2025 US Open, a missed cut by a single stroke, and what happened inside that locker room afterward became the story nobody saw coming. Clark damaged the facility at a 121-year-old historic venue. Oakmont did not issue a fine. They did not send a warning letter. They removed him from the property entirely. Reinstatement required 3 specific conditions: pay for the damage, make a charitable contribution to an OCC-selected cause, complete counseling or anger management. Not suggested. Required. Mandatory. The kind of consequence that signals an institution treating something with maximum seriousness. Clark apologized. Then apologized again. The first one landed hollow enough that a second became necessary. And in a sport where reputation is currency, 2 apologies for the same incident is its own statement. Oakmont was not the end of it. What came next put his name in a different kind of headline entirely, and it matters for what you are about to see. Earlier in 2026, the Arnold Palmer Invitational handed Clark 2 more stories he did not want written. Back-to-back rules incidents in the same week. First, patting down grass behind his ball. Second, a free drop received from a pitch mark in the fairway. Both reviewed, both cleared, but in golf, cleared and forgotten are 2 entirely different things, and the pattern forming around Clark's name had become impossible for the watching public to ignore. 2 cleared rulings, 1 locker room incident at a historic venue, 1 near miss with an attendant on the ropes, 18 months of moments stacking like a file nobody officially opened, but every golf fan was already reading. Walking into Shinnecock Hills, Clark acknowledged all of it directly. "I've gotten a lot of grief since last year. Rightfully so." That line matters more than it seems, because it tells you exactly what kind of atmosphere he was stepping into, not just from the crowd at Shinnecock, but from millions of fans watching at home with that file sitting open at the back of their minds. So when his tee shot on hole 17 sailed hard left on Saturday afternoon, and every broadcast camera in the building locked onto what happened next, those viewers were not watching with neutral eyes. They were watching with 18 months of reasons to look closely. They were watching the way you watch someone you already have a file on. That context is why the clip detonated the way it did. That context is why the word people reached for was not questionable. It was something sharper, something they had already been building toward for a year and a half. The question is, what those cameras actually captured. Because the version most people think they saw and what actually happened on that hole are not the same thing. And that gap is where this entire story lives. Now consider what Saturday at Shinnecock already looked like before hole 17 even arrived. Clark was leading the tournament. The New York crowd was not celebrating that. Shinnecock Hills has never been gentle, and this crowd was carrying everything they knew about Clark into every single shot he hit. The atmosphere around him was not hostile in a general sense. It was specific, personal, the kind of crowd energy that makes players grip the club differently. Round 3 on a course like Shinnecock Hills is where US Opens are won or lost. The greens were running fast, the wind was up, every shot carried consequence, and on the par 3 17th, one of the most demanding holes on the property, Clark stepped onto the tee, carrying a lead he could not afford to give back. What happened next is the reason you clicked on this video, and it is also the reason that, 3 days after the tournament ended, this conversation has not stopped. The tee shot missed. Not slightly, not catchably. It sailed so far left it nearly drifted toward the 18th tee box. A miss so severe that under normal circumstances, Clark would be hacking at fescue from a terrible angle with no clean path to the green. Under normal circumstances. But these were not normal circumstances. And what happened in the 60 seconds that followed is something every golf fan watching had a strong reaction to, even though most of them did not know the full picture of what they were seeing. Here is where everything the viewers watching that clip thought they understood starts to fall apart, or get confirmed, depending on which side you land on. A TV camera platform sat directly between Clark's ball and the green. Under the rules, that is an immovable obstruction, free relief, no penalty stroke. That part raised no objections from anyone. What came next raised all of them. Before taking his drop, Clark crouched down and began clearing the area. Loose grass, debris, anything loose in the drop zone, moved aside methodically before he dropped the ball. The cameras caught every second of it. Fans watching live and fans watching the clip on X had the same immediate reaction. Comments started flooding in before he had even stood back up. What is he doing? Became the first wave, and the answers the internet was supplying itself were not generous. That was the first accusation forming in real time. A man already known for rules incidents, already carrying a reputation for pushing boundaries, clearing grass before a drop at a US Open while millions of people watched. The optics were, at minimum, combustible. The second accusation arrived seconds later from a different part of the crowd watching online, and this one was more specific. The drop height. The rules require the ball to be dropped from knee height. Multiple viewers, watching the clip frame by frame, argued that Clark lowered the ball from his knee to his shin level before releasing it, shortening the drop distance in a way that would give him more control over where it landed. "Isn't the drop supposed to be from the knee?" one fan wrote. "He holds it at his knee, then lowers to his shin before release." Clipped, shared, quoted, repeated. Combined with the grass clearing, the picture forming across X was not subtle. And then came the third accusation. The one that did not just drag Clark's name into the fire, the one that dragged the USGA in with him. Clark dropped the ball. It rolled back into the camera stand. He dropped again. It rolled back into the camera stand a second time. At that point, and this is the moment the clip focused on, the moment that generated the most explosive reactions, Clark was permitted under the rules to place the ball, not drop it a third time. Place it. Set it down precisely where he chose within the drop zone. He selected a clean tuft of grass, placed the ball carefully, took his stance, chipped to the green, saved par. Wyndham Clark hits his tee shot 100 yards left on 17 in a terrible spot, one fan wrote, then just intentionally drops it so it comes back and he perfectly places his ball. Basically zero disadvantage for shanking a tee shot. What a joke you are, USGA. Another. That drop they gave Wyndham is criminal, purposely dropping it back to the camera tower so you can place it on a tuft of grass. Come on. A third simply called it the most generous drop of all time. Paige Spiranak, one of the loudest voices in golf media, was asked directly for her take. She posted 4 words: "I'm staying out of this one, lol." The most vocal personality in the sport would not touch it. That alone tells you exactly how volatile this moment had become. 3 accusations. Millions of people certain they had just watched something that should not have been allowed. What the rulebook actually says about every single one of them is what changes this story completely. Accusation 1. Moving loose impediments before the drop. Legal. Unconditionally. Explicitly legal. The USGA rulebook states that loose impediments can be moved anywhere on the course before taking relief. A rules official stood directly over Clark's shoulder and observed every movement. If anything Clark touched had been a violation, the penalty would have been applied on the spot. It was not applied because nothing Clark did broke a rule. Accusation 2. The drop height. The camera angle was misleading. Clark moved the ball outward, away from his foot, before releasing it. Standard technique to prevent the ball landing on the player's shoe during the drop. Not a lower release. Not a manipulation of height. A normal drop, executed correctly, that looked different from one broadcast angle than it actually was. Accusation 3. The double drop and placement. This burned the hottest online and is also the most legally straightforward point of the 3. When a ball rolls back into an obstruction zone twice during a drop sequence, the player is entitled to place it at the point of the second drop. The rule is written clearly. Clark did not find a loophole. He knew the rulebook precisely and executed it with a rules official present who confirmed every step. Clark did not cheat. Every accusation in that viral clip dissolves under the actual rules. Not partially, completely. Legal and fair, though, are not always the same word in golf, and that is the question this sport now cannot avoid. One writer covering the tournament said Clark took advantage of a rule that desperately needs to change. Another called the sequence the most generous drop in major championship history. Neither accused Clark of cheating in any technical sense. Both were pointing at something the rulebook does not protect: the spirit of the competition. Golf built its entire identity on players calling penalties on themselves, on the integrity of the individual player being the last line of enforcement. When a professional engineer a double drop so a ball rolls back into an obstruction twice, earning the right to place it on a clean tuft of grass after a tee shot that nearly missed the hole entirely, the rulebook says that is fine. The culture of the game asks something harder. That harder question is what turned a rules moment into a scandal that outlasted the tournament itself. Clark entered Sunday with a 6-shot lead. The Shinnecock Hills crowd spent 4 days making clear they were not there to support him. Police removed hecklers during the final round, one ejected for shouting at Clark on the 4th tee. When he missed an 8-footer on 13, cheers rang out across the property. When Sam Burns made a 17-footer on 16, the crowd erupted, not for Burns, but against the man he was chasing. Burns twice pulled within 1 shot. Clark made bogeys. The 6-shot cushion became a single stroke. Then Clark hit a recovery birdie from deep fescue on 16 that effectively closed the door. 2 putts from outside 50 feet on 18. A 3 over 73 on Sunday. A 1-shot victory. Wire to wire. Second U.S. Open title. First wire-to-wire winner since Martin Kamer at Pinehurst in 2014. At the ceremony, facing the crowd that had spent an entire week willing him to collapse, Clark said, "New York didn't really like me. I love you guys. But I get it. Some of it's self-deserved. I did some unfortunate things last year that I really regret. The trophy is real. The questions it carries are real too. Clark broke no rules. The USGA supervised everything. Side A says anyone calling this cheating is calling every professional who has ever used the relief rules a cheater, and that argument is airtight. Side B says placing your ball on a perfect lie after a tee shot that nearly missed the hole, with no penalty and a governing body nodding along, is not cheating the rulebook. It is cheating the idea of what the game is supposed to be. Wyndham Clark is a 2-time U.S. Open champion. The clip is still spreading. Both of those things are permanently true now, and neither one cancels the other out. If you think the USGA owes the sport a serious answer about those relief rules after what you just watched on that 17th hole, drop it in the comments, because the governing body is the only group in this entire story that has not had to answer for anything yet. If this gave you exactly what you came here for, subscribe, because this story is not finished. and you do not want to be the one catching up when the next chapter drops.